Magandang araw mga ka-Einstein. Welcome to another fun-filled day of learning. You're still with me, Sir Janus. Today, we are going to focus on Grade 10 Science, Quarter 1, Module 4, which deals with Earth's mechanism. So are you ready to learn? Quick reminders in order for you to have a cool experience on this video. You can pause the video anytime to soak up the concepts. Pwede mo rin siyang i-pause, lalong-lalo na pag nag-answer ka ng mga assessments or questions. Pwede mo rin gumamit ng separate papers para sa sagot mo, or para mas maganda, you can download yung mga modules provided by the link on the video description. And most important of all, huwag kalimutang mag-subscribe, hit the like button, and ring the bell for more educational videos. So what is our objective for today's topic? At the end of this module, you are expected to describe the possible causes of plate movements and of course, recognize the process of convection current in the mantle. Let's start the topic with Lesson 1, which deals on mantle convection. Before we proceed with our topic on mantle convection, let us have first a quick review on continental drift. So naalala nyo pa si Alfred Wegener? So siya yung nag-propose in 1912 with continental drift theory. He proposed that all continents were once joined in a single supercontinent called Pangaea. Wegener suggested that Pangaea began to break up about 200 million years ago, and the pieces drifted apart to form the present-day continents. Unfortunately, he was not able to provide a convincing explanation, kaya na-dismiss yung kanyang theory ng ibang mga geologists. Here's a quick look on the proposed theory of Alfred Wegener. As you can see, from Pangaea down to the modern locations of each continents. In order for us to fully understand convection in the mantle, it would be best to discuss the key concepts or to boost our vocabulary on the topic. The first key concept is the mantle. Mantle is described as a layer beneath where the less dense hot molten material rises and sinks. So it's a part of the Earth's layer. The next key concept that we would be dealing is what you call as the asthenosphere. It is described as a soft, weak, and plastic-like layer which is the upper part of the mantle. This is where lithospheric plates float and move. So if the mantle is here, the asthenosphere is located here, just below the crust. By the way, let us clear the misconception on asthenosphere. Maling tawaging liquid yung asthenosphere. Yung correct term dito is viscoelastic solid. The next key concept that we would be dealing is what you call as magma. So ano nga ba yung magma? Yung magma, these are hot molten rocks formed beneath the Earth's surface. By the way, ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba ng magma sa lava? Anyone? Okay. So yung magma, yung tawag doon sa hot molten rock pag it is underneath the ground. But once it is spewed or released on top or it reaches the surface, this is now what you call as lava. The next key concept that we would be dealing is on convection current. Yung convection current, ito yung main topic natin for this day. This is what facilitates the movement of the lithospheric plates. So, quick idea about convection current. Yung convection current, this is when hot materials rises, and once it reaches the top, it begins to cool down and it moves downward. So that is what you call as convection current. The next key concept that we would be dealing is the Earth's core. Core is described as the innermost layer of the Earth, which generates heat to the mantle. Later on, titingnan natin kung ano bang meron doon sa inner core, kung bakit ito ay sobrang mainit at bakit or paano siya nag-generate ng init and how does it helps in creating the convection current. Yung next na word or concept that we would be dealing is lithospheric plates. Na-discuss na natin nung unang mga topics kung ano yung lithospheric plates. Tinatawag din siyang tectonic plate. So ano nga ba ito? These are massive, irregularly shaped slab of rock generally composed of both continental and oceanic lithosphere. Merong dalawang klase ng lithospheric plates. You have the oceanic plates and you have the continental plates. Now, how to know the difference between the two? Of course, those plates located underneath the oceans are called oceanic plates, whereas those on top are called continental plates. The last key concepts that we would be dealing is about slab pull and ridge push. So ano nga ba yung dalawang to? Now, we all know that hot material rises. So kung saan tumataas yung hot materials, dyan nagaganap yung tinatawag na ridge push. This is when magma pushes the plates apart. Kung saan naman lumamig yung mga materials or it moves downward, with the aid of gravity, that is where you would find the slab pull, wherein the pull of gravity on a plate that is being subducted. So, tinutulungan siya ng gravity para mas madali yung pagbaba ngayon ng plate na being subducted. Now that you are prepared by having the necessary vocabulary para mas lalong maintindihan yung convection current in the mantle, let's have a quick review on the plate tectonics theory. Ano nga ba ito? Paano ba ito ginawa? Who are the proponents? Naalala mo pa ba? Kung hindi na, do not worry because we are going to take a look about that one as we go on with our discussion. So ano nga ba yung plate tectonics theory? So kung naalala mo pa, yung plate tectonic comes from Latin name which is tectonicus, pertaining to building. So, pag pinagsama mo, plate tectonic meaning yung pag-build ng mga plates. You already know that this was developed in the 1960s, stating that the Earth's lithosphere, the crust, and the upper mantle is broken up into several pieces called plates that move slowly. Yung plate tectonic theory din, yung nag-explain kung paano yung mga plates, yung different types of plate tectonics boundaries such as convergent, divergent, and transform faults. Now, this would lead to different geologic events depending kung ano yung mga boundaries na nagaganap, such as the formations of mountains, volcanoes, and trenches that would occur at their boundaries. Let's have a quick review on the different types of plate boundaries. Based on your previous discussion, you all know na merong tatlong klase ng plate boundary. Yung una ay yung tinatawag na divergent boundary. So this is when plates are moving away from each other. So pwede kang gumamit ng mga hand signals para ipakita yung pagkakaiba ng mga plate boundaries. Yung ikalawa naman, yung tinatawag na convergent boundaries. Kung ito, kanina, moving away from each other, this one moves towards each other, yung convergent boundaries. Yung last type of boundary is what you call as transform. This is when hindi siya nagbabanggaan, hindi siya naghihiwalay, but instead, the plates are just sliding past each other. Tingnan natin kung ano nga ba yung mga geologic events tapos yung mga features na pwedeng mabuo to this type of boundary. So yung first is what you call as divergent boundary. Kung naalala nyo pa, yung process na nagaganap dito is tinatawag na ridge push. And aside from that, dito nabubuo yung mga panibagong crust. So hindi ka mangangamba na mauubos yung lupa because of subduction because it is continually renewed or napapalitan. Now, as a result of this one, these earthquakes are shallow or mababaw lang at mahina, and these occur at spreading ocean ridges and in continental rifts such as this one. The next type of boundary that we would be dealing is known as convergent boundary. Now, do you still remember kung ano yung process ng convergent boundary? Yes, this is when plates push together or move towards each other, yung paglalapit ng dalawang plates. There are two concepts na dapat mong tandaan when dealing with convergent boundaries. Always remember that the denser plate subducts. At pag two continental plates, yung magkakatagpo, walang subduction na magaganap, instead, magfo-form siya ng tinatawag na collision zone. Anyway, we would be discussing that one later on. So there are three types of convergent boundaries. One is the ocean-to-ocean convergence. Second one will be the ocean-to-continental convergence. And the third one would be continental-to-continental convergence. This would form unique geologic events based kung anong klaseng mga plates yung magmi-meet. So tingnan natin kung ano yung pwedeng ma-form pag yung dalawang oceanic plates is magko-converge or magmi-meet. Yung una, pwede siyang maka-form ng mga volcanic island arc. Ikalawa, pwedeng maka-form ng tsunami. And ikatlo, pwede siyang maka-form ng ocean trench. Paano ba nabubuo itong ocean trench? Remember na mayroong subduction or pagbaba ng plate na magaganap. Ito dito, yung malalim na part kung saan nangyayari yung subduction, dyan mabubuo ngayon yung trench or yung malalim na parte ng dagat. And of course, aside from these three, magbubuo rin siya ng earthquakes. Tingnan naman natin kung ano yung mangyayari once an oceanic at saka yung continental plate ay mag-converge. So, it is almost the same with oceanic to oceanic convergence. First na geologic feature na pwedeng mabuo is what you call as volcanic arc. The next one, pwede rin siyang makabuo ng tsunami. And of course, yung oceanic trench, nakagaya rin ng sa oceanic to oceanic na nabuo siya because of subduction. Now, naalala nyo pa kung paano na-form yung volcano? It is because of course, yung subduction din. Itong subducted plate, matutunaw or it would melt, and this would provide now the necessary magma that can be released with a volcano. And of course, with this type of convergence, it will also form earthquakes. Yung panghuling klase ng convergent boundary is between continental at saka continental plate. Now, this is very much different with the two kasi dito walang nagaganap ng subduction. As you can see, two continental plates are parehong dense sila. So what happens here is instead na magkaroon ng subduction zone, meron tayong tinatawag ngayon na collision zone. So here, instead na bumaba yung lupa, it would rise up and it would form now yung mountains. In fact, ganitong process na buo yung pinakamataas na bundok sa buong mundo, which is the Mount Everest. Yung panghuling klase ng plate boundary is what you call as transform boundaries. Now, yung transform boundary ay tinatawag din siyang strike-slip fault. And yung isang famous na example ng strike-slip fault is the San Andreas fault. Ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba niya sa convergent at saka divergent? Dito, walang nabubuong mga tsunami, walang nabubuong mountains or volcanoes, but instead, what is common between the three is that pwede siyang makabuo ng earthquakes. So you might be wondering, sa laki ng mga lithospheric plates, ano nga ba yung nagpupush or nagtutulak sa kanya para gumalaw? That is what we are about to explore as we move on with our topic. Yung paggalaw ng mga lithospheric plates ay nagsisimula muna sa radioactive decay. So ano nga ba itong radioactive decay? Ito yung decomposition ng mga radioactive elements na matatagpuan sa Earth's core. Ano nga ba itong mga radioactive elements na to? So this is caused by uranium and thorium. So about 50% of heat given off by the Earth is generated by the radioactive decay of elements. Now that we know yung source ng heat, yung init na ngayon will move to the core. So aside sa radioactive decay, merong tatlong pinaggagalingan ng init. Yung una is of course forms when the planet was formed and accreted, which was not been lost. Yung kalawa naman is through frictional heating, and of course from the heat of the decay of the radioactive elements. All those three combined will now heat up the inner core and the outer core. Stage 3. Yung stage 3, dito na ngayon nabubuo yung tinatawag na convection current. Yung init na nasa Earth's core would slowly provide the necessary heat which would eventually rises to the mantle and now creates the convection current. Remember, yung hot material would always go up at saka yung cooler material will go down. So that is what you call as convection current. For stage 4, ito na ngayon yung paggalaw ng mga lithospheric plates because of ridge push at saka yung slab pull. Remember, kung saan tumataas ngayon yung molten material or yung magma, dyan magpo-form ngayon yung tinatawag na ridge push. Kasi dyan nabubuo yung panibagong crust na magtutulak ngayon sa mga lithospheric plates na to. Kung saan nagmi-meet yung dalawang plates, dyan magaganap yung tinatawag na subduction zone. And with the aid of gravity, mappo-form ngayon yung tinatawag na slab pull. And of course, stage 5 deals with the cycle. So yung process ay paulit-ulit. Yung rising of the hot materials, yung pagtaas ng mainit na material, and once it reaches the top, it would begin to cool down, and once it begins to cool down, it would be much dense and eventually goes down again only to be pushed upward again. Kaya nga tinatawag siyang cycle kasi paulit-ulit. That is convection current, and that is the reason why it is the reason kung bakit gumagalaw ngayon yung mga lithospheric plates. Now, let's take a closer look and explain yung iba't ibang paraan kung paano na ipapasa yung init. You might be wondering or baka nagtataka ka, bakit ba naipapasa yung init? So, yung init is yung isang klase ng enerhiya na tinatawag na thermal energy. Yung heat can be transferred sa tatlong paraan. Yung una ay tinatawag na conduction, ikalawa naman is convection, and the third one would be radiation. During heat transfer, thermal energy always moves in the same direction. Galing sa mainit, papunta sa malamig, from hot to cold. Heat energy only flows when there is a temperature difference from a warmer area to a color area. That is the prerequisite. Here's a quick example. Yung pagkakaiba ng tatlo. The convection, the conduction, and of course the radiation. So we are going to deal kung ano ba yung mga examples at ano ba yung mga ibig sabihin ng tatlong ways on how to transfer heat later on. Yung unang klase or unang paraan ng mag-transfer ng heat is what you call as radiation. This one doesn't need a contact between the heat source and an object. Remember na yung light at saka yung heat o yung thermal energy is a form of electromagnetic spectrum. So kaya niyang mag-transfer ng energy through empty space. So kagaya ng liwanag galing sa araw or yung init galing sa araw, kaya niyang mag-travel through space kahit wala siyang means or contact between the object. Another method of heat transfer is what you call as conduction. So dito naman, nangangailangan siya ng direct contact of particles of matter. Here's an example of conduction. Say, naglagay ka ng frying pan on fire, then of course, the frying pan would now conduct the heat coming from the fire. And if you touch the handle of the pan, especially if it's made of metal, then you would be conducting the heat coming from the handle to your hand. Yung panghuling klase ng paraan sa pag-transfer ng heat is what you call as convection. Quick review. Ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba ng conduction sa convection? Yung conduction deals with solids, heat transfer between solids. Whereas if it deals with liquids and gases, then that is convection. So this is caused by the difference in temperature and density within a fluid. So density is a measure how much mass is in a substance. So yun yung convection. Let's end our discussion with an application for convection. Do you know the reason kung bakit andun sa taas yung freezer instead of nasa baba? It is because of convection. Yung freezer cools the air at the top and this cold air cools the food on the way down. It is warmer at the bottom of the fridge. Remember that the warmer air rises whereas the cooler air moves downward because it is denser. Ito rin yung reason kung bakit yung mga aircons is nasa taas para of course yung lamig bababa and of course tataas naman ngayon yung hot air. So para mag-provide siya ng circulation or yung convection current within the room. Kasi kung ilalagay mo siya sa baba, then of course hindi magmo-move yung hot air at saka yung cool air kasi nasa baba lang siya. That's it. Thank you for watching. I hope na meron kayong natutunan with our topic for today. So if you have any questions, you can drop your comments below or pwede kang mag-suggest ng mga topics para sa ating next video. And most important of all, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and ring the bell para updated ka sa mga susunod nating educational videos. So, Einsteinatics out.